Good evening. I've been waiting for this picture for nearly a decade. Hey guys, welcome to a new episode of AV in the Films. Guys, if you've been wondering where I've been these last couple of months, I apologize. I haven't had any new reviews. But where have I been the last 2 months? I've been watching the movies, and now I'm going to review them to you. So, starting with the first one in a couple of reviews I'm going to do tonight, is Hitchcock. And I gotta tell you, when I saw the trailer for this, I was so excited I could barely breathe, because I had been waiting since I was 10 years old for a movie like this. We actually get to see a movie about an actor, Mr. Anthony Hopkins himself, playing Alfred Hitchcock, making Psycho. Okay, I am there opening day. Okay, I couldn't be there opening day. It was really hard to find a theater that was playing this movie because it was in select theaters at first. There was a point when I was going to go to New York City to go see this because I couldn't find a theater anywhere in New Jersey that was playing it. And I finally did, and I said, I'm going, I'm going. So I went with my dad. My mom couldn't go. She wanted to see it. But, I'm a Hitchcock fan and everything. I had to see it. So I went and I sat down, and I gotta tell you, from a casting point of view, the cast was really outstanding. I mean, even for Helen Mirren, who I think was the most outstanding in the film, even though she looks nothing like Alma Hitchcock. I mean, let's be honest, she does not look like Alma Hitchcock, but she plays her very well from a viewer's eye point, because I really don't know if Alma Hitchcock did all that stuff that Helen Mirren does in the film. I'm not going to say anything. I probably should, because it's been out for quite some time, so I think everybody has seen it. But if you haven't seen it, I'm going to tell you when I'm going to do the spoilers, like I always do. So, aside from that, I think Helen Mirren was the strongest. Now, let's talk about Mr. Anthony Hopkins as Mr. Hitchcock. Look at the makeup on him. He looks like Alfred Hitchcock. He has the accent down like Alfred Hitchcock. Oh my God, he was perfect in this role. He was perfect. And I still cannot believe that the Oscar nominations came out yesterday and he wasn't nominated for Best Actor. I cannot believe that. Out of everyone. And it's not just the makeup. It's not the makeup. I mean, here's the thing. When I saw this movie, I wasn't looking at the screen going, oh, it's Anthony Hopkins, it's Anthony Hopkins. No, it was Hitchcock. It was Mr. Alfred Hitchcock. That's how I saw it. There wasn't one moment in this entire film when I looked at the screen and I said, that's Anthony Hopkins. No, wasn't a moment in the movie. I was completely drawn into this character. Because I know Mr. Alfred Hitchcock. I've read books on him. I know nearly every one of his films. I know nearly everything that went into making the films, because I've read so much about him. But the funny thing is, what's in this film, I wasn't expecting. Because I know the story of Psycho behind the scenes. I know how hard it was for Alfred Hitchcock to get that movie made. I knew the studio was against him. I knew that he had a lot of trouble doing it, because the book that Psycho is based off of is extremely violent. I mean, even for its time, the movie itself was extreme in its time, but the book in general was a lot more violent than the film. And a lot of people read that book and they said, this is really your next movie? This is the guy who did Rope and, Rear Window and Vertigo and North by Northwest. He just came off of doing North by Northwest. Now he's going to do this. People thought it was going to suck. Boy, were they wrong. So anyway, what I love about it, what I wasn't expecting was, now here's the thing, I like to make movies. I am a visionary, I will admit that. And as a visionary, as a director, as Mr. Hitchcock was, what I love about the film is that he has conversations with the real Norman Bates from the book of Psycho. Not in reality. It's not like he went to prison and he visits the guy. No, in his mind. Like, he walks around in the house by himself and he's having a conversation with the real Norman Bates. And he's thinking, what would Norman do? What would he do? And then he starts having conversations with the real Norman Bates about his life, about Alma, and whether or not she's seeing this other man, that she's writing something for him. He's having questions about that. And that really got to me. It really did, that he would do that in his mind. You know, to get inside the mind of Norman Bates, to make the character more believable for the movie. And I really enjoyed those scenes. I love Scarlett Johansson, who I thought was awful. I thought she was going to be terrible to play, oh crap, what's her name? Janet Leigh, sorry, Janet Leigh. She plays Janet Leigh in the movie. I didn't think that was going to go well. She actually pulled it off. I mean, it was a satisfactory performance. I thought it was well done. The guy who they got to play Anthony Perkins, the guy looks just like Anthony Perkins. I am dead serious, okay? And Perkins has been dead for like 20 years, but this guy looks like Anthony Perkins. I am not kidding you. Like, I was actually struck, you know, with surprise when I saw that. So, yeah, and he's got, and you know, Hopkins, he's got the makeup on, he's like, and he's like, Psycho is my next picture. You know, he's doing the Hitchcock shtick and everything. And you know, they show you scenes of him making the movie, and it really is interesting to watch, you know. Even though it's not the real Hitchcock doing it, it was a good, like, sign-off to Mr. Hitchcock. It was a good tribute to him of what a genius he was and how everyone was against him, and he proves them wrong at the end, you know. Now, I made a couple of notes here that I had a feeling of forgetting because I saw the movie about a month ago. But, what was that? Oh, yeah. This actually struck me by surprise. I don't know if the real Hitchcock felt this way, but there's a moment where he finally recollects himself, because he had a lot of trouble getting Psycho out, and I knew this. He had a lot of trouble getting this picture made because the film was going to cost so much or something. He had to mortgage his house to get this picture made, because the studio didn't have any faith in him. Even though this is Alfred Hitchcock, you'd think that would never happen. But at this point, when he's doing this kind of material, the studio was a little bit really nervous about whether or not he could pull this off. When they were cutting the film together, he didn't want the music for the shower scene. He felt it was too, like, it wasn't believable. He felt that it wasn't good. But then he gets Bernard Herrmann, they put the strings in there, you know, the fiddles, and he sees Marion Crane get killed with the music, and he said, oh, it's great, it's perfect. And he puts that in, but he didn't want to put the music in at first, which shocked me. I'm like, that's a horrible decision, put the music in, you know? Yeah, I got that. Yeah, you know, there's also a lot of other interesting things in this film. This is the main purpose of this movie. Audiences will like or love this movie. I don't think anybody will dislike it. If you like making films and you like, you know, a little bit of drama, you know, in the lives of other people, but if you like a movie where people make films, you're probably going to find this interesting, and you probably will like it, because he does succeed at the end, obviously. It was Psycho. Now, if you're a fan of Hitchcock and you know every little thing about Mr. Hitchcock, and if you know a lot of information about him and you know a lot about Psycho, you're going to love this movie. There are a lot of special winks to the audience. Because, as far as I'm concerned, the audience was laughing hysterically. I mean, the people who were in the theater, there weren't people like me, maybe like 2 teenagers were in the theater. There were a lot of adults there. There were a lot, like people like in their 70s were there, seeing this movie. People who grew up with his films. There's a lot of winks to the audience. One of my favorites is this. There are 2 scenes that are my absolute favorite. The second one I will not dare ruin for you. I'll just tell you a little bit without giving too much away. The first one is when he's screening the film towards the end of the movie, and we know how the movie's going to go because we've seen Psycho. We know what's in it. When he's screening it, he leaves the theater and he goes into the lobby in the theater right when the shower scene happens, and he's waiting for it, and he's looking through, and he's looking at the audience, and they're just sitting in their chairs, and he's waiting for that moment to come up when Mother comes in with the knife. And as soon as it happens, you see Anthony Hopkins in the lobby imitating it. He's imitating the shower scene, and he's hearing people screaming, and it's just so funny because he knows knows what's on the film. He made the film. But I love it. Like, as soon as the shower curtain opens, he's going... I love that. That made me laugh so hard. And I wonder... I don't think Mr. Hitchcock really did that. But who knows? Maybe he did. But it was just interesting to see that, you know? And the second one... If you have seen this movie, you know exactly what I'm talking about. If you haven't, I'm not going to ruin it for you. I'll just give you a little bit of... Okay, fine. Spoiler alert. I have to talk about this. I just have to. Spoiler alert. The very end of the movie, the audience lost it. They could not stop. People were laughing so hard. I thought it was hilarious, but I didn't think it was that hilarious. I'm a Hitchcock fan. And I know what film he made after what. And I know the movie he made after Psycho. And if you're a Hitchcock fan, you know what movie that is. So Anthony Hopkins is looking at the camera, and he's talking to the camera, and he says, well, I made Psycho, you know, it was a good success, and all that stuff. And he says, but I wonder what my next picture... This is a spoiler alert, by the way. I wonder what my next picture will be. And I know that in my head. And as soon as I knew that, a crow flies in, lands right on his shoulder, stays there for like 5 seconds, chirps, and flies away. And he walks the other way. He's like, I wonder what my next picture would be. I loved that. That is the biggest wink to the audience ever. Because if you're a Hitchcock fan, you know exactly what that means. And I just loved that. That was a huge... That was one of the best bits of the movie for me. But other than that, this is a film about a visionary. Like, next to Orson Welles, I mean at the time, next to Orson Welles and, you know, Stanley Kubrick and Frank Capra and Francis Ford Coppola, all these great filmmakers at the time, he was a huge visionary. And this movie proves it. It shows that. It shows his genius. It shows what he stood for and what he saw in films and what he saw in people. And, you know, all of his films are not about murder. They are not about, you know, people who kill or inside the minds of killers. It's not like that. His films are about people who have to think. Because that's what happens to a lot of people in the world. You know, we go through life every day where we don't think. And then things happen in life. Things get in the way. And we have to start thinking of how we're going to get out of this and stuff like that. That's what his films are about. Now, I will admit, all of them are very suspenseful. Pretty much. They don't have to be scary. Just because a movie is suspenseful doesn't mean it has to be scary. Because if you look at most of his films from the 40s and 50s, none of them are scary. Psycho will freak you out. If you haven't seen it, watch it. Just don't watch the remake. So yeah, that's all I gotta say about it. I'm really upset this movie did not get nominated for Best Picture. It did get nominated for Best Makeup, which it deserved. He did look like Alfred Hitchcock, and I think Helen Mirren got Best Supporting Actress, I think. I could be wrong about that. I saw her name come up in something. So maybe it was for that. I don't know. But she definitely did deserve it. She was really good as Alma Hitchcock. But aside from that, I really enjoyed this movie. I really did. I can't wait. I would love to see it again. I really would. And, yeah, that's my review on Hitchcock. So, good evening.